You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 3rd day of March, 2025. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We normally do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. This week, Michael is taking a vacation, a well overdue and much deserved vacation. So while the live trading room is open in sort of a read-only version this week while he's away, in other words, you can see the charts, but you should have your own charts. So if you've booked a free trial for this week, my recommendation is that this coming weekend, book it again. Okay, Mike will be back. He's done such a good job of teaching you guys his new strategy, methodology, how he uses the indicators. I don't want to go in and upset the apple cart there, because he and I have different wheelhouses. He has his world, I have my world, and so anyway, as a convenience, I'm opening the room each day, and today there was an issue with the password again, but it's going to be fixed, and the password that you got with the weekly trading zones, that should work for you tomorrow if you choose to log in to the live training room. Now, when the live training room ends each day, normally at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the afternoon broadcast. This is the schedule of the afternoon broadcast, but this part down here, the recap of the room, the live trading on TradingView for 30 minutes, that part won't happen this week. So each broadcast, each afternoon broadcast this week will be brief. Okay. Now, there's 2 different ways to join the afternoon broadcast. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click the link. Fill out the 30-second registration form. And you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In that email, there will be a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it will automatically log you into our platform. Now, this broadcast is open to the public. That's everybody everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. On a normal week, the live training room, of course, is reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1-week free trial. And if you signed up for the free trial this week, we're just going to push that forward to next week for you. But make sure you go in this coming weekend and just re-register. We'll see that you're coming through a second time, but that's okay. We'll allow it because we've been talking about Michael taking a vacation for a month or so, and then last week we discussed it each day during the live training room. But not everyone is always at their desk at the time we talk about it. So there were a couple of people this morning that were like, huh? Well, there you go. Now you know. All right. So without any further ado, we're going to Oh, let me finish my thought. I said there was two different ways to log in to the afternoon broadcast live. By live, I mean right now as it's happening. Okay. The other way is to go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,700 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And if you're new to the world of CFRN, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Not just today, not just this week, but thanks to the power of YouTube, you can see how we've evolved over the years. You can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more. Obviously, you're not going to watch them all, but just pick some at random. And you'll get the idea of how we got from where we began to where we are now. youtube.com/CFRN. So we're going to just jump right into our daily devotional. And we are on day 4 of 7, how to deal with complicated people. Our scripture today, John 16, verses 31 through 33. And I'm going to share it from the Message translation. Jesus answered them, "Do you finally believe? In fact, you're about to make a run for it, saving your own skins and abandoning me. But I'm not abandoned. The Father is with me. I've told you all this so that trusting me, you will be unshakable and assured, deeply at peace. In this godless world, you will continue to experience difficulties. But take heart, I've conquered the world." John 16, verses 31 through 33. So, as we continue to talk about how to deal with complicated people, stop letting them surprise you. If you've ever read product reviews online, you've probably noticed that many items get 5-star reviews from some people and 2-star reviews from others. Why? Often it's because buyers either got more than they expected or less than they expected. Their expectation determined their experience. Think about that now, not the actual product, but their expectation of the product determined their experience. When it comes to dealing with complicated people, the same principle holds true. If you think they'll always follow your plans, meet your needs, and run on your timetable, you'll end up disappointed. And once that happens, you'll have to deal not only with their behavior, but with your own disappointment or offense. Sometimes you need to lower the bar a little. Not too low, but low enough to align with reality. Don't let people surprise you. They will make mistakes. They'll have bad days. They'll wake up in bad moods. They'll make dumb choices. We all do these things at times because we're fallible. If you go into every interaction expecting the person to be human, you'll be a lot more prepared to respond with grace, faith, and wisdom rather than angst and aggravation. Jesus made it clear to his disciples and to us that life isn't always going to be smooth sailing. John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. He was aligning their expectations with reality so that when trouble came, instead of getting discouraged or derailed, they would take heart, trust in God, and remain at peace. He wanted them to be mentally prepared for difficult times while also expecting God to work in and through those troubles. In the same way, you can use the power of expectations to help you deal with complicated people. Yes, you can expect some trouble, but you can also take heart and expect God to do miracles in your relationship. Instead of letting people surprise you, get ready for them. How? 1. Be ready with grace. Choose in advance to be gracious in the face of opposition and to forgive instead of taking offense. 2. Be ready with faith. Know that God is with you, and His grace is more than enough for even the most challenging individual. 3. Be ready with strategies. Engage your God-given wisdom and creativity. Learn how to deal with specific kinds of people. Research. Get advice. Plan ahead. Things like people skills and communication skills are learned. So do whatever you can to become more skilled. Who are you going to interact with today? Are you expecting realistic? Have you chosen in advance how to have grace? If your faith level is in the right place, and have you put some thought into how to have the best possible connection? Don't let them surprise you. Be ready with grace, faith, and wise strategies. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, help us to be prepared for the unexpected things that people are going to do today. Give us grace for their mistakes, faith in your power and plan, and practical strategies to have the best possible interaction with them. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Monday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. We'll start here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices, as they're called. Currently, the Dow, let me pull in that data one more time. There we go. Currently, the Dow is down 57 points. NASDAQ is down 70. S&P 500 down 7. The Russell 2000 down 10. So, no movers, no shakers. They're all the same color, but we're not deeply in the red. That could be on tap. You'll see it when we go to the charts. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 17 cents, trading 69.59 last. Gold up $54.10, trading 29.0260 last. That's a gain of almost 2%. Silver up 92 cents, trading 32.42 last. That's a gain of almost 3%. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei gained 629 points, 1.75%. The Shanghai dropped just 4 points. The Hang Seng gained 64. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up, 61 points. The DAX up 595 points, over 2.5%, almost 2.75%. The CAC up 88 points. That's a little over 1%. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a green day for the UK. So far, it is a red radio Monday here in the US of A. So let's take a look at the news. I'm sure everyone has seen, probably more times than they want to, what happened in the Oval Office last week with President Zelensky. So let's try to look at it through the global lens, not just the American lens. The British Prime Minister announced over the weekend his government would work with France and Ukraine to develop a ceasefire proposal to end fighting with Russia. Starmer provided few immediate details, but said the plan would be presented to the U.S. for consideration once ready. So, I'm sure you probably didn't watch them, but the Academy Awards haunted us again last night. Nora was the big winner at the 2025 Academy Awards. I'm not even familiar with that piece of work. Taking home the ceremony's top prize of Best Picture. Now, some of you are probably going, gee, what do you live under a rock? Well, no, but I'm just not familiar with Nora. The film also nabbed 4 other awards. Director Sean Baker won Best Original Screenplay, Film Editing, and Directing, while 25-year-old Mikey Madison won, or maybe it's Mickey, won Best Actress for the film's title role. Baker is the first to win 4 Oscars in one night for one film, including Best Picture. Walt Disney also won 4 Oscars in one night, but for 4 different movies. Governor Andrew Cuomo, remember him? Yeah. Better than a hat trick? Yeah, I guess so, Chris. That's good. Funny. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced his intention to run for New York City mayor yesterday, jumping into a crowded primary race defined to date by incumbent Eric Adams' ongoing legal challenges, Cuomo enters the race as a significant favorite to capture the party's nomination, polling at 38% and leading the second-place candidate by 26 points. Adams sits in third at 10%. The effort is an attempt at a political comeback for Cuomo, who resigned from the governorship in 2021 over allegations of sexual misconduct from multiple women. A Justice Department probe that ended last year found he did indeed harass 13 women over an 8-year span, though Cuomo denied ever intentionally mistreating any of the accusers. Prior to his resignation, Cuomo's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic received a lot of criticism, and his approval rating actually reached as high as 66% in July of 2020, but he exited with only a 38% approval rating. Primaries for this election are scheduled for June 24th, ahead of the November 4th general election. Turning to Wall Street, Donald Trump's latest tariff deadline arrives tonight, with potential new duties starting tomorrow on America's top 3 trading partners: Canada, China, and Mexico. It's a threat that Trump has partially delayed once before, and administration officials are already hinting could be pared back. If Trump follows through on even a sliver of his many upcoming promises, it could match or surpass the economic toll of his entire first term. The Tax Foundation estimates that Trump's 2018 to 2019 tariffs shrank U.S. GDP by 0.2%. The proposed tariffs this week against just Canada and Mexico are projected to surpass that. Trump this week is pledging 25% duties on Canadian and Mexican imports following a 30-day pause. He has also said a second round of 10% duties on Chinese imports is planned to up the blanket tariffs on that nation to 20%. The duties could come into effect at midnight Eastern Time. Trump is likely to give an update on his plans at 1 p.m. Eastern, where he is set to appear at the White House for an investing announcement. Well, you don't want to miss that. It's in about 30 minutes, I guess. Donald Trump was able to reverse the first slump in digital assets since he took office, with some new promises about a U.S. strategic reserve of cryptocurrencies. The president said Sunday in a social media post on Truth Social that such a reserve would include Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. He had not previously spelled out which digital assets would be included. The new disclosure sent the value of these digital assets soaring, reversing a slump that had taken hold in recent weeks and accelerated last week as Bitcoin experienced its worst correction since a 2022 meltdown. Bitcoin's price, which had dipped as low as roughly $78,000 last Friday, rose above $94,000 on Sunday. The world's largest cryptocurrency is currently up more than 6% since Trump's post, although still below its all-time high, above 109,000 the day of Trump's inauguration in January. Currently trading about $90,347. Tesla stock rose 2% today as Morgan Stanley analyst Adam Jonas says he sees shares of the EV giant, rising to $430 as it diversifies into artificial intelligence and robotics. Shares of the EV maker plummeted almost 28% in February as the company's EV sales slumped, leaving investors to wonder whether CEO Elon Musk's involvement in politics was turning off buyers. Jonas predicts Tesla's full year 2025 deliveries could decline year over year, creating an attractive entry point for investors. The analyst reinstated Tesla as a top pick for the auto sector, with a price target of $430, about a 50% increase from Friday's close of $292.98, and a bull case of $800. Tesla's softer auto deliveries are emblematic of a company in the transition from a pure automotive play to a highly diversified play on AI and robotics. Currently, Tesla trading $298.30. That's a gain of $5.32, or almost 2% on the session. The freight market has been all over the place for small carriers, and right now there's a feeling that something's about to give. The big question is whether this shift is going to work in your favor or just keep the squeeze on spot market rates a little longer. Truckload demand, the need for your services as a small carrier, is still 16% lower than it was last September, but we're also seeing some carriers tap out. That means fewer trucks on the road, but not enough freight demand to make shippers and brokers start bidding up rates. At least not yet. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, plans to invest $100 billion in chip plants in the U.S. over the next 4 years, a move President Donald Trump is set to announce at the White House later today, according to a person familiar with the matter. TSMC is the world's leader in production of advanced semiconductors used for artificial intelligence, and the investment would help bolster Trump's pledge to make the U.S. dominant in AI. The person who described the plans did so on condition of anonymity ahead of the announcement. Trump has repeatedly accused Taiwan of stealing the U.S. chip industry and threatened tariffs on foreign-produced semiconductors, as top U.S. officials have consistently affirmed their commitment to boosting domestic manufacturing. That's particularly true for technologies at the heart of the U.S.-China competition. And because I think Taiwan wants American support, that's why they're going to invest $100 billion in chip plants here in the U.S. over the next 4 years. That means lots of jobs for lots of Americans. And from Bloomberg. For some time now, there have been plenty of reasons to worry about big tech stocks. Stretched valuations after a big run-up, heavy spending on artificial intelligence, and lofty expectations for future growth. For months, though, none of it seemed to matter. Something changed in the past week, however. The so-called Magnificent Seven stocks are sliding. A Bloomberg index tracking the cohort is down 12% off its peak, falling into correction territory after it powered the NASDAQ 100 to a record on February 19th. Of the Magnificent Seven, only Meta is in the green for the year. there you have it. On the home front, Logic 247, our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. We're currently in week 344. Over the last 344 weeks, we've issued over 19,000 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 30% or 20%, or less of the alerts being stopped out based on market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders in their one-on-one mentoring sessions. Now, the recap was done this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. I haven't issued anything since then. Since the markets opened last night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we issued 7 alerts. Still waiting on the outcome of 4. We had 3 actionable alerts, of which 1 or 33% would have been stopped out, again based on market structure and a simple process that we teach all of our passport holders. Last week we ended up with 10%, which was a great week. Remember, the average over 343 weeks is 20% or less. So last week 10%, but it didn't start out at 10%. The day before it was 11%, then 14%. There was 8%, 14%, 19%, 23%. We had a, where was that 100% day? We had a 100% day somewhere. I must be thinking of the week prior. We had one day that triggered and it stopped out. But maybe that got adjusted. Still should be in this list, but I don't see it. I'm not going to waste time looking for it. Anyway, we had a week that started at 100% and ended up at 14%, I believe it was that week. And last week we ended up with 10%, which is obviously a great week if we've averaged 20% or less over now 344 weeks. So we've still got a full week ahead of us. Hopefully we'll see this number come down, but you never know. Now, the logic alerts have an entry price, an initial target, additional targets, and then a final trade to target. You can trade them, but the real purpose behind the logic alerts is to help you learn how to read a chart. You should be able to look at a chart and instinctively know, with the help of our humble indicators, what the next high probability move is. You should be able to instinctively spot where major resistance is, where major support is, and find the windows in between. The Logic 247 alerts will help you learn to see the markets in such a way that you'll no longer need the alerts. Because with the alerts, really all I'm doing is pointing out what's already evident on the chart. Now, the logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session and vice versa. But our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts, they're different. They don't come out around the clock. They are posted as a static report shortly after or shortly before the Globex open each evening. Now, Thursday night, I got about 5 minutes ahead of the open. Now, at 6 p.m. Eastern Thursday night, that became the Friday session. Just like tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, that will begin the Tuesday session. Last night, I got them out 20 minutes after the open. So usually on Sunday night, because I have to do the weekly trading zones and other things, it's usually on Sunday a little after, but I do endeavor each day to get them out 5 minutes ahead of the open. That's something relatively new over the last couple months. In the past, it was always shortly after the Globex open. So last night at 6:20 p.m. Eastern, all of our members had all of these targets: S&P, the Dow, Russell, crude, NQ, gold, silver. And by the way, on silver, we are on the K contract now. Okay. So 20 minutes after the open. Now, all alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's just the time frame I chose many years ago. And they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I've left it alone. So when we look at the charts, the 30-minute charts of each of these markets, okay, just remember, it was 20 minutes into the first candle that all of these targets were published, both for members and for trial members. So let's go look at the daily chart. All right, 24% Feb retracement. We hit it and bounced, closed well below it. And then we continued down as if we were headed to the 38, and then we caught a huge rally on Friday. It took us all the way back up to the 24 and the step line. Now, I mentioned last week that the step line starting to hook to the right. When the step line crosses red and falling, price will typically retrace back to the BBC. That's the green line. Stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and anticipate higher prices. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and anticipate lower prices. Higher prices, lower prices. Now, we're just at that 24% Feb retracement. This is the all-time historic high put in on December 6th. In order for price to retrace to the BBC, it has to overcome this obstacle, red and falling. But if we were to close here today and open here tonight, that might be just enough to pull the black step line to the right side of red and falling. So how we close today, as every day, is going to be important in regards to what we see overnight, tomorrow. Now the daily chart. Nobody trades a daily chart, right? Well, that's not true. Institutional traders, they look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. Why? It has everything to do with account size. Because of the incredible account size of the institutions, the size they trade in, they're the ones who move price. So, whatever you trade, futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, ETFs, spend 2 minutes with the daily chart before you start your regular trading session. Number one, it's going to give you a heads up as to what the deep pockets are doing. And right now, we got another doji. Had so many dojis of late. Now we had one back on Friday, but we closed to the upside. Okay. Then we hit this resistance at red and falling, so we've got support right below us at the 24. We got resistance right overhead at red and falling, and then we've got today's high, and then we have the high of February 27th. That would be last Wednesday. Okay, so when you look at the daily chart, not only are you seeing what the deep pockets are up to, or if they're undecided as they are right now, but you can also identify major areas of support and resistance that aren't viewable on the smaller time frames. So again, whether you trade futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, ETFs, I encourage you spend 2 minutes with the daily chart, because this is going to allow you to see what's happened since the session opened last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. We've had to run up, we've had to run down, and we're just below where we opened. Okay, and if this step line again crosses red and falling, look for a retracement back to the BBC. Does it happen every time? No, very few things happen every time in the markets, but it certainly happens more often than not. So as I said, the targets, or the alerts, logic, and the CTAs are published on the 30-minute chart. They're created on the 30-minute chart. Now the vertical line that you see right here, that separates today Monday, back here is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. Now these are last week's weekly trading zones. Why? Because the new weekly trading zones come out Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. There was a hiccup in the NQ this morning. I got dyslexic on one set of numbers. I've already published in the discussion group, and I've already corrected it on the weekly trading zone channel. So if you scrape the numbers earlier and pasted them into TradingView, you want to rescrape them and repaste them so that you have the right ones. Okay? Right. Now, because everything published on a Sunday night is based on the previous week zones, that's why we're looking at the weekly zones from last week today. The new zones did go out this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, and so anything I publish today, tonight, everything going forward will be based on the new weekly trading zones. We've published the zones since December 14th of 2009, every week for members and trial members. Once the zones are published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. So we had a gap higher open last night. This wee candle hiding behind this vertical line, okay, that was Friday's closing 30-minute candle. So we had a significant gap higher last night. This high failed to take out this high by a bit. And that sent us back to the zone. When price drops to a weekly trading zone, we expect support till proven otherwise. When price rallies up to a weekly trading zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. So we opened, backed off, got below blue and climbing. Now Now we came all the way back to the step line, to the weekly zone, which again we expect to be support. So it gave us a leg and a retracement, a leg and a retracement. The pullback to the BBC holds more often than it doesn't. Eventually it will trade through, but you expect it to hold until it doesn't. As you can see, it held there and there, and it held there. This time it traded through. Traded down to the zone, found support, and bounced all the way back up to the BBC where it found resistance. That resistance sent it back down to the zone where it found support, bounced it up to the BBC, and it's now sending it back down to, again, last week's zones. These are the zones that were published not this morning, but last Monday morning. On tomorrow's broadcast, you'll see this week's zones on my chart. So we're going from zone to zone to zone. Now, if we take this zone out, look for potential support here and here, right here, and then that would put you at the short target. The market's starting to look a little heavy. It had some pep in its step early on, but well, things seem to have changed, which could lead us back to the 38. Since we put in the new all-time historic high, we've been to the 38 once. We've been to the 24 numerous times. But this candle here, it's a long way to travel because we're sitting right on top of the 24. But if price continues to drop, the 38 is down at 58.11/12. Okay. So that's pretty far down. Now this is a bullish cross. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits the area of the bullish cross will almost always be good support. And it was. This bearish cross here, when price revisited, good resistance. Set us down to the zone. So right now price is kind of trapped. The BBC overhead is resistance, and with red and falling, the step line and the zone right below, that's support times 3. But if buyers hit the pause button, the institutional buyers, if they hit the pause button on the buy side, then it'll rip right through those like they aren't even there. Now we've got a high, we've got a low, we've got a higher low. So what happens here in the next few hours will be important. And do not forget that down here, this is a bullish cross that led to a major rally. So when price gets back here, you should expect a bounce. Okay? On the Dow. This is where we opened last night. Price dropped. But we didn't fill. Yeah, no, there was no gap there. Now when the step line crosses blue and climbing, we typically get a retracement to the BBC, but it ran out at first and then it came back and then the pullback held. 1, 2, 3 30-minute candles. And then we made a run all the way up to the zone, to the target and the zone from last week. Resistance always sends the market looking for support. And then we finally traded through, came all the way down to the zone below, found support, and that has bounced us up to, we've overcome the step line. We tried to overcome red and falling. We actually did get above it. Is that as close as we get? Perhaps there is a large area of opportunity down here. Okay. On the Russell, we did have a gap higher open there last night. Took us all the way up to 2195.1. Then we got a doji. Now, when you have a big rally and you get a big doji like this, you can often expect a reversal. And we got one. Right back to the zone. That's the zone published a week ago today. Support will send the market looking for resistance. Red and falling. Back to support. Here we overcame red and falling. And we made it right up to here. Now that takes, if we look, this is Monday, today, Friday, Thursday. But what we failed to do was take out this sign of weakness. So down we go below the BBC. Support bounces up to resistance and sends us down to the short target. See the bullish cross? That's when the blue line gets above the green line. Okay, and we hit that basically to the tick. 2148 was the number. The low was 2146. And this one was 2147.2. So we spiked it by just a couple points. Gave us a bounce, but we found resistance at the step line, and that's what sent us back down to the target. Bounced us back up to red and falling, and I would want to get down into this area right here. 2151 down to 2149. That would give you your goal for the day if you don't already have it. On the NQ, we had a gap higher open, but that gap higher open failed to take out that high from last Thursday. Sign of weakness, put us back below the BBC, the step line crossed. Buyers really wanted to push price higher. Ultimately they did, but we got our retracement to the BBC, pullback held. That sent us up to the long target, and then the 9:30 open, down we go. Now we didn't make it all the way to the bullish cross, but as we pulled up we hit the BBC and red and falling. Okay, now coming down, red and falling or the step line could have both been good support. Your next support area is right here, and then right here, and then right here, and then here. And it looks like that's the direction the market wants. Now, this, again, could turn into support. This could turn into support. And this low right here. Okay. But at first blush, it looks like the path of least resistance is currently to the downside. Crude oil. Here's where we opened last night. We ran right up to the long target, and we took out Thursday's high. Resistance sent us looking for support, which we found at the BBC for a couple of hours, but we had red and falling overhead, which is bearish, and that eventually took us to the target, down to the zone where we consolidated. Only three things happen at a weekly trading zone. When price encounters a zone, 70% of the time you get consolidation like this, like this, like this. 20% of the time you get rejection. 10% of the time you get the slice. So from support, we hit the BBC. We had some initial resistance, but we traded through it. But now, look at these wicks sticking up. Okay? Kind of like these wicks sticking down. That suggests we could consolidate sideways into the close. It's not a forecast, just an observation. Red and falling overhead, that's resistance. And now because the step line has gotten directly below price, that's potential support. On gold, here's where we opened last night. Got a retracement back to the VBC and the zone. And then we just consolidated, hit the zone again, consolidated, hit the zone again. Then we got above the BBC, and we got a leg, and a retracement, and a leg that took us right to the target. And we've just been consolidating sideways at that long target now for 1, 2, working on 3 hours. Silver, again, we're on the K contract. This is where we open. We got a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement. And then things changed right here at the London Open. We took off like a rocket all the way to the long target, to the zone overhead. Now this initial resistance came in right around this bearish cross area. See how it sent price back down? But the second time we overcame it and still came back. And now we've consolidated for 1, 2, almost 3.5 hours right at last week's zone, 32, 38 / 32, 39. We're now below the 24. A few minutes ago we were sitting on top of it. We're below it, but look at the step line. You see how it's angling to the right? If we consolidate sideways for another hour, President speaking in just a couple minutes, anything can happen. Because with him, you don't know what he's going to say. To become a member, send an email to support@cfrn.net. In the subject line, put "I want to become a member." In the body of the email, put your name, your phone number. I'm not going to call you, but we'll send you an email that explains what it means to become a passport holder. And there'll be a link you can click to actually become a member. Two hours of live training every trading day. 9 out of 10 new traders fail because they don't have anyone to teach them how to trade. So we plugged that hole. Think about that. For 90% of those that want to be a trader, we've plugged the hole because we give you 2 hours of interactive training every trading day. By interactive, I mean you're trading along. We're in live markets, live trades, real money. You are in your demo account so that you can learn the strategy and qualify to go live. And you're asking every question that pops into your head. Because it is a mechanical methodology, pretty soon you'll run out of questions. Or you'll find yourself asking the question a second or even third time and you'll go, oh, I already know the answer. But it's good to listen to the answer again, since you already asked the question. And what you'll find is that the answer is always the same. There's no question that can be asked that hasn't already been asked and answered. Okay? And that gives you confidence knowing that the answer to the question Never changes. Along with 2 hours of group training every trading day, you also get private one-on-one mentoring, no extra charge. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETF, doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. As a passport holder, you also get the Logic 247 alerts round the clock. You get the concierge trade alerts the second they're posted each evening. On Monday mornings, you get the weekly trading zones at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We've done that for the last 15 years as of this past December. And once the zones are published for the week, they're carved in stone. And on tomorrow's broadcast, you'll see this week's zones on my charts. You're also able to attend the members only workshop on Thursday night, and you get the golden key that opens all the private passport channels, or Telegram channels, as a passport holder. We got private channels, we got public channels. When you become a passport holder, you have access to everything. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, at one low price. Just send that email to support@cfrn.net. Okay, let's wrap up this abbreviated broadcast. Now remember, it will be abbreviated each day. Michael's taking a well-deserved vacation. It's been a very long time. He's gone away a couple times, but he always took his computer with him and still attempted to run the room in the morning. And this time he's just unplugging, taking time off that is much needed and well-deserved. Our good word for the day is let's work together. 1 Corinthians 3:9. For we are laborers together with God. The Bible says we must love, honor, and work together. So why don't we do it? Ego. We like to think we can do everything ourselves, but that's not reality. There's no supermen or superwomen. So the question is not whether or not you can do everything on your own. It's how soon are you going to realize you can't do everything on your own. Philanthropist Andrew Carnegie declared, "It marks a big step in your development when you come to realize that other people can help you do a better job than you could do alone." After training his disciples for ministry, Jesus sent them out in twos. There were no solo acts. Why? For many reasons. To prevent one another from straying off the path, to hold each other accountable, to encourage one another when the going got tough, and to offset a weakness with a corresponding strength. We each have blind spots, and we need someone with 20/20 vision in those areas to help us see things the right way. As recorded in Exodus 17, when Moses held up his hands, symbolizing reaching for God's help, Israel's armies prevailed against the Amalekites. But when Moses got tired and lowered his hands, the battle went against Israel. What was the solution? It's in Exodus 17:12 through 13. But Moses' hands became heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side, the other on the other side. and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. A couple questions to think about. Who's holding up your hands? And whose hands are you holding up? That's our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.